How many times have we seen government say they're going to do something, create an agency, then the agency does exactly the opposite, or it does things that break the law, and there's nothing that anyone inside or outside of government can do about it? Well, we have just such a tale about the Small Business Administration today. Joining us is Lloyd Chapman. He's been suing the government for over 20 years on behalf of small business. He's lost only once. In the last 5 years, he's won over 30 times, and he's got a story to tell us today. Well, that's quite a record you've got of lawsuits and wins, but we want to talk about this issue that you sent to us about contracts being awarded that were supposed to be set aside for small businesses, but they're being awarded to some of the largest companies in the country. Tell us about that.
Yeah, federal law requires that a minimum of 23% of all government contracts go to small businesses. And in 2002, I noticed that there were Fortune 500 firms in the SBA's database of small businesses. So I started looking into it. And I was shocked when I found hundreds of the biggest companies in the world in the SBA's database of small businesses. So I got the General Accounting Office to investigate it. There was a congressional investigation, and they found, I think it was around 5,300 large businesses getting federal small business contracts.
And these are significant contracts. I'm looking at the list that you sent me. We've got $1.9 million to GE. We've got $38 million to Verizon. We've got $110 million to Lockheed Martin. IBM, $2 million, $1.7 million. Bank of America is getting stuff from them for contracts. Wells Fargo, of course, the banks are always going to get in on that, right?
Yeah, the biggest one is General Dynamics. They got $236 million in federal small business contracts.
Wow.
And what's amazing is this is a decade after there was a congressional investigation. The Associated Press wrote a story about it, ran in every newspaper in the country, and I thought it would be over. Well, I was wrong.
Yeah,
and
the bureaucracy just continues to go on and on and on, doing whatever. We thought it would be over when everything broke about the NSA spying on people, but nothing happens. You know, they get caught lying under oath and nothing happens, and the bureaucracy just cranks on regardless of who's in charge.
I'll tell you something. I've been around this for 20 years, but I'll have to tell you that in the last 2 or 3 months, it's gotten so bad that I'm sort of shocked by it, quite frankly. They have...
That's funny, isn't it? You know, as bad as it gets, it still shocks us when we see it, because you think, oh, it can't get any worse than this, and then the next couple of days you see something that's worse.
Well, nothing happens. And you basically, they know that there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
So all these Fortune 500 firms, they know there's nothing you can do. And it's amazing. General Dynamics has gotten, government contracts for years and years and years. But what's so funny is the people in government know that there's nothing you can do. And one of my problems, I'd love to get some help from you guys. The Small Business Administration hired a company called APCO Worldwide, which is one of the largest public relations firms in the world, specializing in what they call crisis management or issue management. And you can't get the story out there. I've talked to reporters. They'll interview me for about an hour. And then I'll say, let me tell you something. I'll say, your story will never run, and you and I will never speak ever again. And I've had reporters get really mad at me and start talking about journalistic integrity, right? And I was in Santa Barbara a few weeks ago, and I got a call from a reporter from USA Today. And I talked to him for probably an hour and a half. And after our conversation was over, I said, I got to tell you something. You can't write stories about Lloyd Chapman. You can't do it. I've uncovered hundreds of billions in fraud, and those big corporations don't want that story out, and you can't write the story. And he kind of, treat me like most people do, like, oh,
You're paranoid.
Yeah, you're paranoid. You're a conspiracy nut. Well, guess what? The story never ran.
Well, we're going to run it, as people are saying right now that we run it.
But I'll tell you another bizarre thing is I issue press releases all the time, and I used to issue a press release and get as many as 20 pages of pickup on the internet. I would sit there at breakfast and go through and look at them. Today, I can issue a press release on a big lawsuit I've won, and it won't get 1 page of pickup.
Wow.
And it's so they're working really hard to keep the story out of the press. But I think the big news is I want people to understand is I predict that Barack Obama is going to close the Small Business Administration on Monday. And in 2008, I predicted he would close it by combining it with the Department of Commerce. And about 3 years later, he announced his intention to do that. So when Ronald Reagan wanted to close the Small Business Administration, his method of closing it was to combine it with the Department of Commerce. And that's what Barack Obama's going to do, I say, Monday.
Ah.
And he's going to call it streamlining government. But he's doing the exact same thing that Ronald Reagan did when Ronald Reagan said he wanted to close the Small Business Administration.
Well, what makes you say it's going to be Monday? Is it because, as he hinted, that there's going to be some kind of a press conference on that topic on Monday?
I think he's using the SBA as a bargaining chip with the Republicans. And the Republicans that are the party of these Fortune 500 firms, right?
Right.
You know, Chevron and GE and, you know, Lockheed, you know, Archer, you know, those are Republicans. Companies. And he is going to use closing the SBA as a bargaining chip to Republicans in this budget deal. I think they've got to come to some agreement, I think, Monday night, right? The government's going to close down.
Yeah, okay. So they're the patron saints of the mega corporations. So he's going to...
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I say that, you know, really late Monday night, they're going to, in part of the budget deal, they're going to combine the SBA with the Commerce Department. By the way, Barack Obama says that if we combine the Small Business Administration with the Department of Commerce, they can save $300 million a year. That sounds like a lot of money, right? The auditors for the Pentagon found the Pentagon loses $86 million an hour. Think about that.
Yeah.
So the Pentagon loses more money before they go to lunch every day than Barack Obama's going to save in a year by closing the SBA. The Pentagon loses enough money in a day to fund the SBA for a year.
Well, let me ask you this, Lloyd. If we've got the SBA that's supposedly making sure that we get these contracts out there, is required by federal law, would you say 30-some-odd% of the contracts? 30 what? 33?
43.
43? Okay.
40, yeah.
So 43% of the contracts by law are supposed to go to small business. But if they're not doing that, you know, and you can't reform them, you said this was 10 years ago that this had all come out, you thought it would be reformed. Do we want the Small Business Association? Are they doing anything worthwhile?
Yeah, they've got a $100 billion loan program, and all those small businesses aren't getting the 23% they're supposed to get. They're getting some percentage. But my goal is to reform it, get rid of the fraud. You know, I think, to tell you the truth, the only organization that I think, you know, can really solve this would be the FBI. It's gone on for a decade. The Inspector General for the SBA has named this as the #1 problem of the SBA for 9 years. The Government Accountability Office basically accused the SBA of encouraging people to commit fraud in 2009 and report, I think it was 10108.
Wow.
So
it's going to be hard to get the FBI to do anything about this either. We've been trying to get them to do something about a wealth of other issues, and it looks like there's there's as much corruption inside the FBI as there is in the SBA. It seems to be endemic to Washington, doesn't it?
You know, I've told you I've won, you know, 30 federal lawsuits in the last 5 years against the government. When I go to court to get information under the Freedom of Information Act to expose fraud, you want to guess who I'm up against? The Justice Department.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay, that says it right there.
Yeah.
Well, tell us, we're out of time, Lloyd. Tell us about your organization. How do people contact you real quickly?
It's ASBL.com. And go to my YouTube channel, Lloyd Chapman on YouTube, and you can see all the videos. There's a couple of really interesting videos on there. And people should call their congressmen and their senators until they don't want the only agency in government to help small businesses close. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Lloyd. Thanks for talking to us, and thanks for your efforts to bring this fraud to light. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye.
Well, thanks for sticking around after the news for this breaking story. Remember that you can always catch the news every Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 p.m. You can also support our operation here at Prison Planet by getting a subscription. You can share that with up to 10 of your friends. You can all watch it simultaneously. Well, thanks for supporting INFOWARS Nightly News.
Now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
More than 60 movies and documentaries all in one place at Infowars.com/show.
InfoWarsStore.com, a conscious and involved distributor of independently made products that support a healthy and aware community. Dive into cleaner waters with your own ProPure system and Pro 1D filter. Save 10% with the promo code WATER. We've handpicked a veritable treasure trove of the best non-GMO seed banks on the market. And our selection of films showcases a wealth of knowledge outdone only by our books. Check for combo packs to multiply your savings. Wear your colors proudly with one of these conversation starters. Now available in pink. Get prepared and fund the revolution at InfoWarsStore.com.